Hey friends! So I'm super extra pale today, I'm not sure why. Also, is my lip color still on? I know my lips are like super overdrawn right now. It kind of happened by accident, but like I don't hate it. But you know, sometimes that happens where you're just like, wait, it's just getting bigger. It's kind of like when your wing just like keeps going, but it's like the lips just keep getting bigger. Today's video is going to be a collection of my makeup palettes because I want to do a declutter, but I wanted to film this first. Let's go. So I wanted to go in order of when I purchased these or received them as a gift. The first palette I have is a sleek palette. This is the Caribbean Collection Curacao. I think that's how you say it. It's this color palette. I got nail polish on it. Don't judge me. This is super fucking old. I think I got this like 6 years ago. My friend Lena and I did like a swap because she lived in Wales and I live here. So like I bought some stuff for her and then she bought some stuff for me. And she sent me this and then another palette, which I have since lost, I think. It was the acid palette. It was like neon pigments. So I couldn't actually buy it. Like that was one that I wanted. Literally, we couldn't buy it in the US because of FDA standards, because of the neon pigments. But this one I quite like. This for the longest time was like my only brights palette, because I used to have one of those like Coastal Scents 88s. You know, those like really terrible quality ones for like $10 and like the plain, like the same packaging that Morphe has. I got that, I don't know how many fucking years ago. I gave that to my sister because I didn't need it anymore. I have another sleek palette that I actually got from a subscriber as a gift a couple years later. This is the Vintage Romance. It's just like a nice smoky palette. Purpley mauve tones, grays, navies. It's not a bad palette. Like, I wish I had more mattes. The quality of the shadows was really great. Some of the palettes are just way too much shimmer. I think they're like 10 bucks or something, 12. They're really inexpensive and they're great. Another palette that's really old that I'm probably going to declutter because it's really gross. I should throw those away because they're that old. But this is the Wet n Wild Comfort Zone palette, which is one of their 8-pan palettes that like everybody and their mom was talking about this palette at one point in time. Great shadows. They're all shimmery and like frosty, which is kind of a problem, but this blue brown is like my favorite blue brown ever. So I might depot a couple of these, but not all of them because I don't use all of them. If you are starting off with makeup and don't have a ton of money to invest, I highly recommend Wet n Wild's shadows in these. These and then the trios are really good. You're not going to find much with mattes, that's the only problem. Another palette that's a couple years old. I don't know how many years old this is, but it's definitely another one that I should probably not be using anymore. This is the Anastasia Artist palette. This, I believe, was the first of 2. I love this palette. It's great. Nothing too fancy. It's 12 shadows, but it's good size pans because they're not too big to where you're like never gonna use them up. I like this because it has the bright colors that I like to use, and then it also has the dark and like the more wearable colors that I like to use. It has like a bright fuchsia, it has like this really nice shimmery orange, and then a bright yellow, and then it has like these 2 colors which are like my fucking go-to neutral colors. Like Dusty Mauve Rose is like my, that is just my shade, okay? Like it doesn't look like anything on my hand, but I like it. It's a great palette. It's really small, it's very portable. I just want Anastasia to make shadows like this again. Like, can they just stop making those like weird powdery things that like everybody hates, please? So before I get into the rest of these, I did used to own Naked One from Urban Decay that has since been destroyed by my dog, so that I threw away. And then I had the Vice One that I think I gave to my sister or something. It was a good palette, but like I never used it because it was too big and clunky, and just I think I did like maybe a tutorial with it on my channel like a million years ago, but I never used it. Like it just sat in its drawer and just didn't get used. And then I had a couple Stila things. I did have a really great Stila palette, and I recently found it. Okay, I do have to talk about this palette real quick. It was so gross. It was in my glove box. I thought I had lost it for like 2 years. This is how often I clean out my car. Stila in the No palette was in my glove box for 2 years, so it was gross, it was dried out, it was freezing cold, it was like crumbly. It was not something I wanted to put on my eyes because like, cool, sanitation. It was like the Naked Ultimate Basics one with the Shade and Light palette. It was like my favorite neutral palette of all time, but they discontinued it, so dang it. I want Stila to bring that back. It was so good. It was so good. The packaging on that was super easy to use. It had a nice mirror. As far as terrible packaging goes, the Kat Von D Serpentina palette. This palette I bought on a whim because a couple of my friends had it and I saw eyeshadow looks that they had done with it and I was like, I need this shit. The colors are great. Like they're great quality. I mean like they're Kat Von D quality shadows. They're great. But the packaging is stupid. It's huge, like it's bulky. This looks like something you could keep like a dildo in. Like it's so big. And there's 8 shadows in this. Like there's 8 shadows and then a pressed shimmer pigment for this giant shit. Like this has 12 shadows. It's tiny. This has 8 and it's huge. I love the colors, but the problem with this palette is that I can't really like make a whole look out of it. There's like 2 matte colors and they're both like super saturated. So like there's no transition shade. Cool. And also like there's no highlight shade. Cool. I mean, it's clearly a palette that is used as an accent, but it's too big to carry around as an accent. I might depot these though. A couple of palettes that I bought right around the same time are more Kat Von D ones, but these ones I really like. This is the Shade and Light eye palette. It's such a good palette for every day. The only thing that I have a problem with is that there's 4 cream colors and like why? I use mostly these 4 and then that, as you can see, but it's great palette. I like that there's a mirror in it and it's just, again, very sleek packaging. Pastel Goth palette, which I love. Like this is probably like my favorite design of a palette like that I own. Yeah, by far. It's real tiny, it's really sleek, easy, just magnetized. It's great. I bought this one kind of on a whim too, but I actually really like the shadows. I can't create a whole look out of it very easily with this like I can do with Serpentina. This is easier because I can just take one of these colors and just put it all over my lid and it's fine because they're matte pastels. I really like this. I'll probably bring this out more to use it more just because I don't use it nearly enough. Going back to Anastasia, this isn't an eyeshadow palette, but it's a palette nonetheless. Moonchild Glow Kit. This thing, everybody and their mom had this when it came out. I love Pink Heart, I love Lucky Clover. Those have clearly gotten the most use. Great highlighter palette. It's a little messy, that's the only thing. I can use it on my eyes, I can use it on my cheeks, I can use it on my lips. I can use it wherever I want. I just wish that this shit had a fucking mirror. Come on, Anastasia, don't skimp on that shit. And then probably my most used palette of all time, and I mean like I use the Naked palette, but like I wasn't like excited to use it. I don't know. Modern Renaissance. This is one of those palettes that suffers from the fucking velvet shit. Like, why? And this is even worse because it's like millennial pink velvet. So it's like just gets gross and fuzzy and shit. So if you want to travel with it, not looking pristine anymore. I've hit pan on Tempera, Vermeer. I'm very close on Golden Ochre, very close on Primavera. I'm getting close on Love Letter actually. Burnt Orange, I'm working it down. Buon Fresco. This was like the warm palette that started all of the warm palettes. This is the OG, the warm palettes, the warm neutrals. A palette that I bought this year for myself, ColourPop. Yes, please. It's like Modern Renaissance's younger, hotter, summerier sister. It's similar tones, but I like swatched some of them next to each other earlier, and these are definitely brighter and have less of a deep pigment. So they're definitely not as high quality because this is like a $16 palette, and that's when like a $50 palette, 42, I don't know. I love this palette. I might invest in some more ColourPop palettes because they're coming out with them left and right. My only gripe with this, well, I have 2 gripes. 1, no mirror, but it's understandable to keep things cheap. 2, it's white. Why? Why would you make any palette solid white? Because it's just gonna get fucking eyeshadow anywhere and it's gonna make it look dirty. Like if you wanna make it like a solid color that is minimal, make it black. Fingerprint City. Like you can't see it on camera because everything's bright, but like this shit, like look at how gross that is. Look at that, it's gross. It's gross. Anyway, it's a great palette though. Last year, earlier this year, I don't quite remember, I invested in the Urban Decay Electric palette and it is dearly departed and I'm very sad about it because it's such a good palette. This thrash color is like, oh, it's so good. Owning this palette is the only reason why I do not have like a ton of Sugar Pill eyeshadows, because otherwise I would have a ton of Sugar Pill eyeshadows. And then the last 2 palettes that I have are vastly different price points. This is the NYX Ultimate Brights palette. This one is a nice complement to the electric palette because the pigmentation is not nearly as strong as that, because this is a $17 palette. It's a really good palette if you want to play around with bright colors and you don't want to invest a ton in like an Urban Decay palette or like a Vizio palette. It's smaller, it's much more compact than a Morphe palette because those things come in those like giant fucking boxes and stuff. It's like a huge, and this has a window, so it's really easy. The pigmentation is not the craziest, like it's kind of like pigmentation, but it's 17 bucks, so it's not bad. And it has a 24-month shelf life, so this ain't going bad for another year and a half. I like it. If you need some bright palettes that you want to experiment with, this is good, especially because the pigmentation is not so intense. It's very foolproof. It's not gonna like, not like you're gonna put pigment on your eye and be like, ah! It's just gonna be like, oh, it's a nice soft pigmentation. And then my last palette that I bought most recently, you guys have heard me talk about this shit like so many times recently, the Vizio Dark Mattes palette. This thing is like the angsty older brother to the NYX Ultimate Brights. If you look at the colors, if you like lowered the saturation and took out some of the gray tones, it would be very similar in color. But we've got like browns here, purples here, blues here, greens here, oranges, and then like rusty colors. The placement of the shadows in this palette is perfection. The variety of colors within this tone is so good. Like if you just want to do a brown eye, bam bam, problem solved. If you want to do like a warm brown, use these four, problem solved. If you want to do like brighter orange, these four. Look at that. Green, blue. It's just, there's quadrants. Probably not these four. That'd be kind of weird. Nah, I use those colors. It's just like the way that it's organized. It's like, ooh, purpley, smoky blues. Ooh, warm, bright oranges. You could do that one too. These four, it's just, everything makes sense. And this was $64 with my Sephora 20% off. So it's not cheap, but they're great quality. And if you're somebody that wants to invest in like good eyeshadows that are gonna last you for a while, these are really nice. I think you can get them at other places that are cheaper where they have like better coupons and stuff. So definitely do some research if you don't want to spend the full price, which is $80. Not the craziest packaging, very minimalist, but it's very small for having 16 eyeshadows. Like it's so small and so compact. The colors are great. They blend really well. It's great eyeshadow. In the future, when I'm not as broke, I might invest in more of these. They not cheap. Honestly, I've seen some other eyeshadow palette collections and mine is like fucking tiny compared to other people's. Like I didn't buy that many this year. I don't own any Too Faced palettes. I own one ColourPop palette. I don't own any MAC palettes. I don't even own that many Anastasia palettes. I own, well, two plus a highlighter palette, but like I don't buy a bunch of palettes. I just don't. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. In the comments below, let me know if there are any palettes that you think that I should try. I want to try and focus on like indie brands. I want to try and go with brands that aren't in Sephora and brands that aren't in Ulta or even like newly in Ulta. So if you know of any brands that you think that I would love, let me know. I will be doing a declutter soon, declutter/depotting, so I have to do a little bit of research on how to depot stuff effectively without everything breaking. And I am planning on doing some sort of project pan this year after I declutter and kind of get through everything that I don't need. So let me know if you want me to kind of document that and do kind of updates on panning things, and because I feel like that could be interesting because I've enjoyed other people's videos where they talk about that stuff. So for today's song of the day, it is Wayhome by Young in the City. And Young in the City is Noah Gunderson's other band apart from his solo stuff. And they released an EP back in 2016 and I actually finally saw them for the first time last month. So if you like more of that kind of Tom Petty, Heartbreakers-esque kind of rock and roll, check out the entire EP, but Wayhome specifically is your song of the day. And if you go check it out, they actually have a performance on KEXP. I'm posting super regularly on Instagram, so follow me there if you want to keep up to date with all the shit happening in my life, and Twitter because I'm tweeting more and I get real ranty on there. So if you enjoyed the video I uploaded previous to this one, follow me on Twitter because that's where you hear all the real stuff, because Twitter can't demonetize that shit because it's not being monetized. Yay! Anyway, so if you like this, give it a thumbs up. That would be super helpful to me. Hit subscribe. I would love you forever. And hit the little bell to get notified when I upload new things, which is going to be a little more regular. I hope so. Check out my previous video where I got super ranty about Logan Paul posting a video with a dead body in the thumbnail. Yeah, that was the thing that happened. So, see you guys in the next video. Bye!